Welcome back. Now, in an attempt to stop me from getting full on hypothermia, I thought I'd broaden out this chat by involving Don, who is, look at him, who is on the other side of the world and is busy trying not to sweat too much. Oh, how I miss South Africa at the moment. And even more than usual, because Don has just been on a particularly interesting day out, riding with the guys from Dirt and Trail magazine, and he has been putting 6 very capable adventure bikes through their paces. Don, what's particularly special about the bikes you took on this ride? An adventure bike is an adventure bike, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so there's this thing here in South Africa, people in Europe might not quite understand, but if you're gonna ride an adventure bike, it needs to be basically, in their eyes, like a rally bike, you know what I mean? You need to be a hardcore rally machine, because everybody here who rides motorbikes, his name is Stefan, what's his name? Peter Hansel. You know, they're all that guy, and they're going to go on this big adventure. So they all need huge suspension and a 21-inch front wheel. That's like you have to. If you don't have a 21-inch front wheel, the world will explode and you will die. And I'm not even like exaggerating. You should see like the forums and stuff. That's quite literally what they think. So what we decided to do, we got 6 bikes together, adventure bikes, and all of them have 19-inch front wheels. And the whole idea was to go for a really good sort of adventure ride, see some interesting places, all with 19-inch front wheels to see if the world explodes and we all die.
Okay, well, I'm presuming since I talked to him that he hasn't in fact died. I'm presuming the 19-inch is a happy medium between 17 for the road and 21-inch for ultimate adventure. But why does 21-inch become the ultimate?
Well, okay, 21 inches is what all the motocross and enduro bikes use, and fair enough. I mean, they hit either big jumps or they're rolling over massive rocks, and it's all got to do with sort of rotation, you know, the rolling effect. It can roll over bigger rocks, bigger bumps, bigger everything, whereas the smaller wheels tend to sort of go more kind of into them rather than over them. So yeah, okay, if you are doing Erzberg Enduro, you definitely need a 21-inch front wheel. When you're riding down a perfectly smooth gravel road at 80 kilometers per hour while standing the whole time, no, you really don't. The thing is, the 19-inch wheel bikes with sort of slightly less travel suspension, they handle better, they turn better, they are smoother ride, they feel better, they'll give you more confidence, all that kind of thing. However, if you are going to go into some really properly rough terrain, then yeah, you need a 21-inch. It will work better. But I mean, for most people will never go to those sort of places, and those that do go there sort of 0.1% of the time, but not even 1% of the time. They say they do, but they're talking rubbish.
Well, that about sums it up, doesn't it? Just want to work through the bikes quickly with you, Don, because you had a fantastic selection with you. And we'll start with probably the couple of biggest names in the class. BMW to begin with, the 1250 GS. We've ridden all these bikes before, but just give me a quick 30-second rundown. What did you think revisiting it?
Okay, first of all, whatever we say here, we'll tell you that one of the bikes has cured cancer, solved world hunger, world peace, everything like that, and is powered by alien plasma or something like that. It does 4 billion kilometers per hour. You will nod and go, that's nice. And then you'll go and buy a GS. Come on, just admit it. You all will. You know what I mean? The GS, yeah, I mean, what do we have to say? It's got one thing really going sort of against it, and that is the price. I mean, even the non-adventure, almost sort of base model kind of GS is around the 300,000 Rand mark. I think slightly more if you really want to spec it up. And that's quite a lot of money. It's by far the most expensive bike here out of all the ones we had on the day. However, there is another thing going for it. It's a 1250 GS. Holy cow. You open that throttle, 143 Newton meters hits you like a flippin' barge, and you go forward very quickly, and you laugh and you giggle. And yeah, so I like it.
Yes, it's, I mean, in the 1250 variable valve motor, extra capacity, and you're so right, when I rode it, it's the best update to a GS that's happened ever. It's a fantastic engine now. The only other bike that can really compete with it, I think in terms of torque, off the top of my head, you may prove me wrong, but KTM's 1290S is also a bit of a beast, isn't it? But we would expect nothing less from the KTM.
Yeah, 160 horsepower, the most on the day. 140 Newton meters, so down 3 on the GS, but wow. And now this is something interesting, is I rode that bike last, the 1290 Super Adventure. It's always been my favorite, and when you ride all the others, you tend to sort of get pulled into, they've all got sort of an allure about them, something alluring. And you sort of get pulled into that. And by the end, you're sort of thinking, is that 1290 really all that good? Is it all that necessary? Do we need it? And then you climb on the 1290 adventure, you open the throttle, the front wheel picks up, you accelerate in sort of a mad flurry, the thing growls and roars at you, and you go, oh yeah, okay, never mind, okay, I'm back with it. This is my personal choice. If I were to choose a bike, and remember, I'm a bit of an idiot, I would take the 1290, hands down.
A price, it can't be that much behind the BMW, surely.
Base model 260,000 Rand, throw some stuff at it, probably around 280. So it's not that far behind, but still less.
Okay, Don, well, let's stick then with the 1200s, because there's a couple more to get through. The old man of the bunch, really. I can't believe it. I think it's just over 10 years now, but Yamaha Super 10. Does that still feel up to date or falling behind a bit?
Yeah, you guys remember that. So Yamaha Super Tenor, apparently it still exists. It came out 2010. They did a slight update in 2014, and here we are, 6 years later. And how things have changed, my. It does feel dinosaur. I mean, it's got all the sort of rage then. It's got traction control and all that kind of thing. Nothing too over the top fancy. It's got an LCD dash. Remember those? Yeah. Yeah. What I have found that has changed a lot in the last 10 years is the way they do fuel mapping. I mean, those bikes nowadays, you got like a 650 or an 800 motor, and you open the throttle, and it has so much bottom end and mid range, more than it rightly should. And then you get on the Super Tenor and you open the throttle and you kind of remembered, oh yeah, that's what it was like. I mean, you're going up uphills, and I'm changing down. I remember we were riding with my videographer on the back, so, I think I already count as 2 people, plus another person. And you're going up hills and you're sort of going, I'm having to change down a gear. When did this start happening? So yeah, it is a little bit dinosaur, but there are 2 great things going for it. Number one, it's been around forever and it's never blown up. You've never heard of problems from a Super Tenor, and everyone knows how to work on them, so if you want a bike that's going to last a million years, buy a Super Tenor. The other thing one thing I did miss about those days, remember when people actually made seats that were comfortable? When they didn't just take plywood and cover it with vinyl and then that's it, you know what I mean? I miss those days, and the Super Tenor still has them. You sit on it and you go, wow, that's so soft, so cushiony. I miss these days.
Yamaha, come on, give us an update. 2014 for the last one, and even that wasn't a major update. So It's a 10-year-old bike. You'd have to think that they're got something in the background that they'll be bringing along soon. The other 1200, of course, is a much more modern one. It's just had an update. It's the Triumph.
This was the XCA, so the upmarket version one. It's got selling for a price of 275,000 Rand. You can add some accessories onto that. This is the luxury cruiser. It's like the ocean liner. I mean, literally, because it's the most heavy, and you kind of feel that because the thing is quite tall, it is quite heavy, so short me on my little tippy toes, I wouldn't take it anywhere daring, you know what I mean? Especially this one, I wouldn't go into any daring adventure, and every time I stop, I'd be looking where I can put my feet. So no, it is big, it is top heavy, but it is such a luxury cruiser. You feel like a VIP, you do. You get on that thing, it's so luxurious, so kind of over the top. You can't help but kind of feel like it's almost like a sedan, luxury limo of the adventure world. And that I really, really love.
Also, the only one here, is it, with a triple motor, which is unusual for an adventure bike, but it is a lovely engine. Pretty decent horsepower as well, knocking on, 140 now, or high 130s?
Yeah, it's 139 horsepower. So not the most torque. Torque is sitting on 122 newton meters, but it sort of works, you know what I mean? I would use it more of a kind of a long distance touring machine than an actual adventure bike, but it works.
Yes, yeah. It does work in that respect. One of my favourites, I have to say, but then that's because I'm not a very good adventure rider. But for the road, yes, superb touring machine. A couple of, a late arrival, really, at least in terms of South Africa, has been Suzuki's V-Strom. It's the 1050. It's not a massive engine in this company, but it is a serious update for the V-Strom. Don, you liked it when you rode it at the launch or when you first got hold of it. This second time around, still good feelings about it?
Okay, so it's the cheapest of the lot, 222,000 Rand. It's also one of the lightest. It's 247 kilograms weight. But here's the thing. I used a word to describe it, which is lovely. And there's a very specific reason why I use lovely. Lovely is the word your mother says when you bring your new girlfriend home. And she says, oh, she's lovely. And that's just and there's a big code into that. It's mother for she's way better than your ex. You better marry this one and not that other crazed, one of those. So it is sort of the marriage material of the whole group. It feels light. It feels very comfortable. The motor's perky, but still very usable. It sort of does everything, and any rider could get on it and say, yeah, I'm enjoying this. Any rider on any day forever will enjoy the V-Strom. It's marriage material.
Okay, can't say fairer than that. And the final bike, a bit of an outlier, really. Motor Guzzi's entry.
Okay, can I just point out it's an 850 motor. It's 850 air-cooled motor. It's a little bit unfair because it's sort of in the company it's keeping there, but it is kind of the offering from Moto Guzzi, if you know what I mean. So
price, mate, just to compare, even though it is an outlier in terms of engine size, what is the price?
Yeah. Okay, so. It loses the spec sheet claim. It's the least horsepower, 80 horsepower. It's air-cooled, and it's 234,000 Rand, so not even the cheapest. Where it does win is that it is the lightest. It's 229 kilograms wet, which is really good. It's also got a 23-litre fuel tank, which is really good. But here's something I will say about it, is that it's one of these sort of bikes you get on and immediately think, oh, what is this thing? But the more you ride it, the more it has this sort of charm that comes over you. And we noticed this there was a group of us who were swapping bikes all the time. People would start off riding it and kind of go, and then the more they rode it, the more they think, yeah. And I noticed towards the end of the day, when we were doing bike swaps, there was a lot of people kind of surreptitiously going, anyone riding the Guzzi? Should I? So towards the end of the day, there were people actually ignoring the GS, ignoring the 1290 and wanting to ride the Guzzi more. It is one of these sort of machines where it's not the most sort of capable, especially on paper. But the more you ride it, the more you sort of giggle and you think, yeah, I like this. Guzzi charm.
And there you have it. 6 fantastic bikes for doing adventure. And as proved by these lads, 19-inch front wheels are more than fine for 99.9% of adventure riding. That's just the way it is.